Hey, good evening, everyone. It's pretty late here on Friday night. It's almost 10 p.m. What I'd like to do is I'd like to do a little bit of a recap of the week here. I want to take a look at the S&P. I want to take a look at Nasdaq. I also want to take a look at Bitcoin. Not to get real deep into the weeds here. I'm going to keep it real high level. Before I get into any of this, of course, as you all know, it's not financial advice. I'm not your financial advisor. You're responsible for your own trades, managing your own race, doing your own research. I'm just giving my opinion on the. I'm just giving my opinion on the market. If you don't have access to our Discord, it's real easy to get access. You can just slide right on over to BitDoctor.org, give you access to our community for free. If you want to have access to just the indicator that I use in all of my trading, you can get access to that. You can also see that on BitDoctor.org. If you want access to Insured, which is where I typically give equity trades. We've been staying away from equity. We've been doing some short-term options, and that's been doing very, very well. We've had several big wins over the last couple weeks. We had one that went 500% on Tesla just a couple weeks ago. Insured Plus, more advanced option strategies there. We also play some of the bigger indexes rather than just individual stocks. That is a little pricier, but bigger risk comes bigger reward. So all of those you're able to see all of that information on bitdoctor.org. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me a message. Get access to the Discord community. You can shoot me a DM. Be more than happy to talk to you about any of that. All right, without further ado, I think we should go ahead and take a look here at our charts. I want to focus starting with the S&P, looking at the ES chart. Just one example here, what we have been looking at. I had been pointing out that we had a little bit of a rising trend line here, and we did a perfect back test of that. We did that back test after I had already drawn out this trend line, and we did a back test of that, and then we pretty much sold off perfectly from there. Again, I mentioned that I wouldn't get too much into the weeds here, but again, this does look like we did create a top. We had a good double top up here at about 43.82, 43.84, somewhere in that range. What I want to do is I want to kind of zoom out a little bit here, because what we could be creating a little bit of a head and shoulders. And this looks like a mini version of what Bitcoin looked like. I'm going to kind of remove this just to kind of clean things up. Again, I do believe that we did create a bit of a top up here. It is possible, right? So just to be fair, it is possible that what we could see going into next week, we could see, and I actually think we're going to see a little bit of a bounce and to sell off here. But this is going to kind of be that point of really important support. I think we have to maintain this area here, which is at about 4,300. We have to maintain that to see higher prices. My opinion, probably what's going to end up happening is we're just going to kind of consolidate here, and then we're going to move down. And I do think that we're going to see lower prices, and this is going to be pretty significant. I'm going to take a look at Nasdaq as well. I think it's going to be very similar. I did talk a little bit about rotation in my last video that I did 2 days ago. And that's also important. What I want to do, since we have seen a sell-off into the close, and really the majority of Friday was a big selling day, I want to compare what the entirety of today looked like across all indexes. I think that's very important. It's very important to look at it across all indexes to determine whether or not the market is selling off or if the market is just rotating. I think it's very important to determine if a market is rotating or selling off. So I'm just taking a look at the S&P here. I'm going to take a look at Nasdaq. I'll take a look at Bitcoin. But then I also want to take a look at those indexes just to determine if there is any rotation going on. And I might do this in kind of a complex way to see, across multiple charts, what the atmosphere is really doing right now. All right, so this is the S&P. It looks like we have a good strong sell-off here. It does look like it wants to continue, if I'm being honest. It looks like it wants to continue. What we've got from the top here, we had a strong pull, and then a nice bounce, and then a strong pull, a nice bounce, and a strong pull. And if I threw the volume on here, let me see if I've got my volume indicator on here. And it's going to be tough because you don't have a whole lot of volume in the after hours, right? So in the overnight, not a lot of volume. So probably this would be better served to look at on SPY. Let's take a look at SPY, because that's going to be the next thing to look at, because that's going to be where a lot of the volume is. We can see that average volume is increasing, but what is happening? Well, the price is going down as volume is increasing, and this opening candle today, a really significant amount of volume, and that was a significant candle, 0.34% just in that hour. But it does look like we have some momentum that is building up in a downward fashion. And if SPY does continue to sell off, I would definitely expect it to come back down here into the upper 420s, maybe mid 420s. And that would be that area where I would look for there to be some kind of a bounce. Again, if you're going to compare this to the ES chart, well, that area of importance is right here at about 427. Okay, looking back here. But again, what everybody's going to start basically calling this, and I'm just going to go ahead and just kind of do it ahead of time. We have a nice shoulder, we have a head forming, and what I'm expecting is potentially another shoulder being created over here, which that's going to be your right shoulder. So next week is going to be very tricky. I've been holding off on taking equity trades for quite some time now because I've been anticipating this correction. And I have been monitoring, just for the record, I have been monitoring equity trades that I would have taken, and a lot of them would have gotten stopped out. So I'm actually pretty happy with the fact that I haven't been taking equity trades, because this doesn't look great. Honestly, yeah, we've been having all-time high after all-time high, but the weighting of the S&P 500, let me see if I've got this up over here. Yes, I think this is it right here. All right, so this is old. This is from a while back. Let me just refresh this and see, because the S&P 500 has been propped up by the performance of just a few stocks. Okay, and let me just zoom in on this so that potentially you can see this a little bit better. Apple has a weighting of 6.31. Microsoft is 5.74. Amazon is 4.22. Well, we know that Amazon alone hit like 37.70. It did very, very well. We know that Microsoft has been doing very, 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 very well. Microsoft hit 280. I sold that at about 260, 265, somewhere thereabouts. Apple just went through a split, right? So Apple also, is trading. And when these guys pull, well, it's pulling the index down hard. Now, what I was saying before is the S&P 500 has been making new highs, but it's been on the back of these 3 or 4 stocks that have a heavy weighting in the S&P. For example, Tesla only has a weighting of 1.36. Amazon, Microsoft, Apple, we're talking 3, 4 times, 5 times the amount of weighting compared to Tesla, right? So just to kind of put that into perspective, these 3 or 4 stocks have been rallying, and that's what's been propping up the S&P 500 throughout this whole time. And now that they're starting to pull back, look at Amazon pulling back. Amazon hit about 37.75. It's gone down 200 points since then. That's significant. Apple is down 1.72%. These stocks alone, these top 4 stocks alone, Microsoft fared pretty well, but Apple down 1.72%, Amazon down 1.7%, Facebook down 1%. Those alone are going to account for a significant pull in the S&P 500. All right, so I'm just putting that into perspective, because if they do continue to pull, it's going to pull the index down with it. And when the index pulls, the spiders are going to pull as well. So SPY is going to pull right along with it. Let's take a look at Nasdaq, NQ. All right, let's just take a look at what Nasdaq is doing. It's not very healthy. We took a short on NDX yesterday, a pretty hefty one. We took a short on NDX. We took a short on QQQ for those that didn't have larger accounts. And I just want to point this out because, I had pointed this out to the Discord community a while back. We pointed this out that we have, support. We had support here, and then it broke. All right, so the next level of support is going to be right down here at about 14,585. Are we going to hit 14,585 next week? Well, I mean, if we did, then our puts are going to print. We've got some good spreads that would pay handsomely if we came down here. That would be very great. Now, to be fair, all right, and I do want to acknowledge this, the waves indicator called a buy here, and we had a decent rally off of that. Okay, now the waves indicator is also indicating a buy here as well. Now, what would not surprise me one bit is if we saw a little bit of a pullback and then a retest of this guy right here. Okay, from right here, it wouldn't surprise me one bit because again, this is that diagonal that we've got. We had support. We had a pretty clean break, in my opinion. We had a pretty clean break. So to go back and retest, that would make a whole lot of sense before we rolled over. Okay, I'm very cautious right now. Okay, I am very cautious. I do think it's very possible that we can, potentially come up here, roll over, find some support right there. But if we break this is an expansion, right? So if you're not familiar about expansions, basically what I've got here in this channel, it's a fib channel, and I have expansions to the upside and I have expansions to the downside. And what that just means is if we so happen to break up out of this, like right here where we were poking through, if we did break up and out of this, I was looking for us to come up here to about 15.1 in short time frame. Now that we have broken down out of this, I'm expecting us to expand to the downside, and maybe we get a double expansion to the downside. So let's just see here. That would be a -1. Let me just put this in here. -1. So if we get a double expansion, well, this is easily going to come back down to about 14.4. It's possible that we go down to 14.4. Now that we've done this, again, waves indicator is indicating that we do bounce, but the 12-hour on this is pushing down. It's getting down into the neutral zone. It's out of the bullish control zone as it sits right now. And when it gets out of the bullish control zone, which is this green area here, when it gets out of there, well, that means that the momentum is really going to be to the downside. It's going to be to the downside, and the indicator is, it's pretty wide open right now. And until this starts to compress, and when I'm talking about compress, you can see it happen back here. It was pretty wide, and then the next 12-hour period, it started to compress a little bit, and then it flipped, and then it started to move back up. But to be fair, we had a high here. You can see the high on the 12-hour, the red indicator. And then we had a higher high, but we had a lower high on the 12-hour right there. You can see this was our previous high. Then we had a higher high, but we had a lower high on the indicator. So that's negative divergence. So that, again, was more fuel for a move to the downside. So that was when we were trying to poke through 15,000. The actual index, NDX, did poke through 15,000. It hit like 15,001. I'll go ahead and go over there right now because very interested in this. All right, so the high that we had on this guy, 15,001 and 13 cents. And back here, 15,002 and 28 cents. All right. All in all, this does look like we do want to bounce. It does look like we want to bounce. Again, I would just be cautious. I would be looking for basically a bearish throwback and then potentially continuation to the downside. You've got a clear invalidation. You've got a nice trend line right here to be paying attention to. If it breaks up and out of that, I would say that we're probably going to be pushing up, back up, maybe even above 15,000, right? I'm not ready to be a super bear because we had, 1 or 2 days of significant selling. The indicator says that we potentially could be getting a bounce on Monday or Tuesday next week. The 3-hour shows that we do kind of have a good sense where we could be seeing some continued selling into Monday. But once we get into Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it's really going to be hard to tell what's going to happen. I do expect that Tuesday's probably going to be a green day. I do believe that Tuesday's probably going to be a green day. Wednesday is probably going to continue the roll. So manage your positions appropriately. That's kind of what my opinion is on that. I do want to take a look at our good friend Bitcoin here. All right. So we've been looking at this on the server. We are talking about potentially taking some longs, but I'm currently flipped short here, at least for the short term. And this doesn't look great. This really doesn't look all that great. What I can't help but continue to watch is looking here at BLX on the daily. I can't help but look at this and continue to think that yes, we can see a move back up here to 38, 39,000. We've been talking about that for a while now. But I can't help but look at this as, just another head and shoulders. This looked like distribution, right? And I mentioned this on the last video that I did. This looks like distribution. It's pretty clear that we had a nice and clean ending diagonal. This was a nice ending diagonal, right? I mean, look at this. You had compression going higher, and more than likely, I don't have it on here right now on BLX, but more than likely there was some significant bearish divergence on these higher time frames on the daily. And then we roll down and we are in this same zone where we were accumulating before moving higher. But now that we move back down, that doesn't necessarily mean that we are reaccumulating. We could simply be redistributing. Okay? A redistribution phase. And looking at this, I'm on a log scale here. We had a nice good correction here. This was a nice little bit of distribution here at a break of 40,000 for the first time. First time we broke 40, would make sense that we have a distribution. And you can see, you can see it on this day candle right here. Let me just move back and just kind of zoom into this a little bit. We had a day of significant selling, but it was absorbed. Next day, significant selling, but it was absorbed. Okay? And then we had more than likely lower volume going into this before we moved back up. And of course, what happened? Well, right up here, we tried to poke through 60, we had a front run, right? And then up here, we broke through 60, we had a pullback. And then we had that last move up to almost 65,000. And then significant selling, and that was at the climax of our current bull run, right? So now, again, I can't help but really believe that, yeah, we could see higher prices, but it just doesn't look fantastic. Let's take this guy right here from the top. I'm taking this dominant pivot high right here, pulling ourselves back. What happened? We got rejected at the 618. This is not really constructive for a move to the upside. Now, I have no problem being bullish. But you can't disagree with me that this is not significant selling that had occurred. So what that means is all these people that were buying up here, they're going to be looking for whatever opportunity they have to get out of their positions with whatever small loss that they possibly can. So again, I have no problem being bullish, but I have to look at the bearish scenario because, we have bearish scenario after bearish scenario that has played out. It's played out pretty well. This right here, pull that out. What happened? We went to the 618, we pushed through, but it rejected big time and flew through our target, right? Our target would be the -236, flew through that. That is big time selling. This candle right here, I remember the day very clearly. It's right after tax day. This was a significant amount of selling. And what I haven't seen a push up and out. If we were super bullish, to be quite honest, this right here would have kept going, retested this as support, and then kept moving up, and that didn't happen. And I'm basing that off of, again, I mention this all the time, looking left. This right here, significant resistance. And again, it was significant resistance. We broke down and we didn't reclaim it. That is bearish. Okay? Now, am I bullish? Yes. Long term, I'm bullish. But again, what I can't help but see is what is staring at me in the face right now, which is the rejection off of that 618 at 36,000 and the target, the negative 236, at 26.5. That is what is staring at me in the face right now, and I have to mention it. Now, the key here is to take a look now that I've taken a look at all of these different things here, to take a look at all of the indexes to see what they did in the last 2 days. All right, so let's take a look, BTC USD. We're going to take a look at it on Bitfinex. All right, so the last 2 or 3 days have been red days. Now, of course, the new day here on Bitcoin is still brand new. Anything can happen today. But 2 days ago, negative 2.84%. Yesterday, aka today, just finished, right, negative 1.45%. That is pretty significant. Let's take a look again at NDX. What did the last 2 days look like on NDX? Pretty freaking bad. Okay, look at these. Look at these days. First, we had basically a shooting star, right? So we had a shooting star doji candle here 4 days ago. Then we had 3 solid days of selling, right? 3 solid days of selling as we start to move down. That means money is leaving Nasdaq stocks, generally speaking. There will be exceptions. Absolutely, there will be exceptions. Let's take a look at SPX. What has SPX been doing? Red, red, red. Right? We didn't have the same shooting star that we did 4 days ago on the S&P, but it did have a long wick at the top, a little wick at the bottom, but it had a little bit more of a body. But nonetheless, the last 4 days on the S&P have been red. Okay? Today, in particular, almost 1%, 0.75% down. That's significant for an index. All right, let's take a look at RUT. What has RUT been doing? It looks awful, right? We did, to be fair, we did get down here to this area, right? And we were talking about this on the Discord server just a couple days ago. Once we got down here to this bottom, there was potential that we could bounce up and out of here. And to be quite honest, this is still valid, right? Not to mix a lesson in with this, but if you want to trade a wedge, you have to invalidate at the end of wave C. If you're going to play wave E, your area of invalidation, your stop loss should be at wave C. If it goes down below wave C, and again, I'm going to have to move this guy down now. If you're going to try and play this, your stop loss has to be there at 2130 or so. Because that's going to be where wave C was. So again, if this is A, B, C, D, E, well, we do commonly see wave E go beyond the trend line, but it should, in a couple days, start to move up. But in the context for what we're looking at, so far we have seen Bitcoin red the last 2 days. S&P red the last 2 days. Nasdaq red the last 2 days. Russell red the last 2 days. Where is money rotating into? Let's take a look at Dow Jones. All right, so the Dow Jones Index, well, this is very interesting. Today was red, but the 2 days prior to that were actually green. Very interesting. But today was red. So every major index today was red, including Bitcoin. All right, let me pull, I've got another chart here. And let me just pull this up. Let's see here. All right, here we go. We've got ES futures, red, red. Nasdaq futures, red, red. We've got the Dow Jones, green, and then significant red. This is Russell, red, 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 right? And I usually have Bitcoin here. Let me throw Bitcoin back in here. All right, and again, it's just been red. It looks like money is leaving the markets, which means it could potentially be setting us up for a larger correction, at least in the short term. I believe that we will have a little bit of red going into next week, and then we'll kind of take it day by day. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end it here. If this video did help in any way, shape, or form, you know the deal. Like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. And if you need access to Discord, go to bitdoctor.org. You can get all the information that you need there. And wherever you are in the world, I hope you're having a good day, good night, and a good